What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Midwest Motogirl podcast, where I share race recaps, motorcycle stories, and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Welcome to the show, guys. I am pretty excited to be back podcasting. This is an episode or an idea that has been floating around in my head for a couple of weeks, and mainly because I have some stories to tell you guys, and I'm really excited about them. I shouldn't be excited about some of them, but I am. I'm excited to share them and relate them back to some life lessons today. So if you've listened to any of the other podcast episodes, there are some other ones out there about confidence, about tenacity, working through challenges, overcoming challenges on your motorcycle. And that is very, very similar to what the topic of today's episode is. And we are talking about confidence and working through when your confidence is down. So a couple of weeks ago, I went dirt biking, and some of my friends who listen to the podcast regularly and have ridden dirt bikes with me probably know where this is going. But anyway, so I went dirt biking, and it went really well until it didn't. I was down in Milford Lake in Kansas, and there's a trail system down there right off the lake. It's like an off-road park. It's for dirt bikes and four-wheelers only. And so I went down there with my boyfriend, Luke. He was super excited, just like chomping at the bit to ride a dirt bike, just a ride in general. He just recently bought a new bike. He hasn't been on a dirt bike in like 5 years. So he was like really excited, one, about having this new bike, and two, about having somebody to go and ride with. And I was like, yeah, let's go to this off-road park. So we go down there, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll see how this goes. And the last time that I rode at Milford Lake was like last August. I went down there with some of the guys that I race with, and I crashed like 18 times. And by the end of the day, I was like, wow, I'm a really bad motorcycle rider. So part of me was like, it's going to be fine. And the other part of me was like, today could be interesting. So overall, it was a really good day. I rode so well in the morning. The main trail was actually flooded, so we didn't have any choice but to like ride on like single track and kind of like back down into the woods and like on some more technical trails to get to like the bottom main part of the park. And I was just like, all right, we're here, buckle up, I'm doing this, and it's all gonna be fine. And I went into it with all this confidence. I have been practicing like my balance skills on my dirt bike in my yard. Like, I wouldn't say I practice a lot, but I've definitely like practiced, I don't know, a few times this spring. I rode on the little trail at Scott's Place last fall. I tried to do some trail riding down in Oklahoma back in like end of February, early March. And the trails were like very wide open. It was very sandy. So like there was not anything technical going on. So I have been on a dirt bike a couple of times. And I was like, yeah, like I've got confidence. I'm a good motorcycle rider. And the day went great until like probably like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And so like there was a couple of times before lunch where I came like up over a hill and I like bailed off my bike. Or there was like a couple times where I like put my foot down and kind of lost my balance and dropped the bike. But I didn't just like straight up like ride along and crash, like get stuck in a rut and like fall over and crash like what happened last year. So I was very, very excited about how well I was doing. Luke was very encouraging the whole time. He's like, you're doing great. You're an awesome dirt bike rider. He was like, holy cow. Like, okay, you made it sound like you were really bad. And I was like, well, I think I'm really bad. But anyways, so after lunch, we're on some single track on an opposite side of the park. And we're both had a ton of confidence, and I'm going to say we're hauling the mail. We weren't, but I was in like third gear on my 140. And on single track, that felt like I was hauling the mail. Like I was moving pretty good. Get back like at the edge of that section of the park where we're back to the parking lot. And there's like this, like kind of like a gate that you have to ride through to get back into the parking lot. And there's like little metal poles that stick up. And then there's cable on either side of the poles, and it like sections off the parking lot. And then you have to ride between the poles. And they do that so that they don't get like UTVs and things like that, so that they can limit the track width of the vehicles that are going into the park. So it's only wide enough that you could take like a dirt bike or a four-wheeler through it. You can't take like a big UTV. And I knew that those poles were there. We rode through them. We rode through that opening when we came in. But we're moving along pretty good. I get to that opening and I did slow down a little bit, but I see that it's like rutted and like washed out at that opening. I saw the rut, and instead of like riding into the rut, I like did this weird kind of like last minute jerky side like side maneuver to like cut across the rut, and I hit one of those poles. I hit one of the poles on like the edge of the gate, as I'm going to call it, and I hit it hard. Like hard. So my foot took the brunt of me hitting the gate, and I didn't see the pole at all. I should have known it was there because we rode through it, but I didn't see it at all. I hit it so hard, it like threw me on the bike. So it threw my leg off the peg, threw my butt off the seat, like my whole upper body like falls forward over the front of the bike. And I'm just like, holy shit, what just happened? I didn't drop the bike. But like it threw me around, and I come to a complete stop, and my foot is just throbbing, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what just happened? I'm an idiot. Holy crap, my foot hurts. And I'm thinking like, did I just break my foot? And then I see the pole, and I'm like, God, like you're an idiot. And all I can think to myself is just how big of an idiot I am that I ran into this pole. And so I sat there for a minute, I kind of catch my breath, and Luke comes back and he's like, hey, what happened? And I'm like, I just hit that pole. And he's like, okay, like, are you okay? And like, he didn't think anything of it. Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You hit a pole, or like you hit the edge of the gate. And I'm just like, no, like I'm an idiot. What was I thinking? Just like being really hard on myself. And he's like, it's okay. We can go home. Are you done riding? If your foot's hurting, like we can be done. And he literally gave me every opportunity to say, I want to go home, or like, I'm done. He could tell I was in pain. I was holding back tears. And for a second, I thought that I'd broke a couple of my toes, because it definitely took me a minute before I could kind of like feel my toes and like, okay, yeah, like I can move them. But he was just like, if you're hurting, like you don't need to ride through the pain for me. Like we'll just go home. We'll just go home. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like I need a minute, and then I'm fine. And I kept telling myself that I'm fine, but hitting that pole, it really, really hurt my confidence that day. And like all day, I felt like I had rode so good, and I was like, I'm doing so awesome. And then I ran into that thing, and all I could think was, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Just on repeat in my head. And like, you suck on repeat in my head. And those kinds of thoughts, they just completely killed my confidence. This one situation, after a whole good morning of riding, this one situation just killed my confidence on a dirt bike. And I'm sure that we have all experienced something like that. Like we have all experienced a crash, a close call, a bad day, or something happens that has you questioning your abilities, whether it's your abilities to ride a motorcycle, your ability to race, maybe it's just life in general. And there's always situations that happen, and they have you questioning your abilities. Well, when those situations arise, that's where you need to just get back on it. So in this case, or in a case with motorcycles, your confidence is down. You need to just get back on the motorcycle. I mean, take care of yourself, take care of your health and safety, make sure that you're good, check your brain, kind of like regroup. But once you've taken that moment to regroup, you've checked yourself, you're good, you need to get back on the bike, because if you wait, your confidence isn't going to come back. Confidence is something that you build by showing up anyway. You gain confidence by proving to yourself that you can do hard things and that you have abilities. So in this case, I knew I have to get back on this motorcycle. And like when I crashed last year, I was the last event of the weekend. So I didn't have the opportunity to ride again that weekend. And it was like a couple of days later, I was in my neighborhood riding my race bike in the neighborhood, because I was like, I have to get back onto a bike. In those situations where your confidence is down and you're trying to work through it, you can get back on the motorcycle and you can take baby steps. You don't have to get back on and go balls to the walls. For me, hitting that pole, I just felt so stupid from that situation. I think that is what hurt my confidence. So when I was like, okay, I want to keep riding, but like I don't want to do a bunch of technical stuff. I don't want to do hard trails. I just want like to ride easy. And in that moment, I was thinking like, oh, we can just ride the perimeter trail. We can go on the main trail and it'll be like big, wide open. And I can just like ride the bike without obstacles, without trees, and just like chill and relax for a minute. And like that will be enough to prove to myself. Well, what I had forgotten was that the main trail was flooded. So we couldn't just get back on and ride the main trail and cruise around easy. Like we had to go back through the woods and do some technical things to get to the main area of the park. And so I was just like, okay. And again, we're on the trail and like I stopped before we like turned to get onto this other technical trail. I stopped and I just sat there for a minute. And again, he asked me like, we can be done. It's okay. We don't have to ride. Are you sure? Like all the things. And he was great in the situation because he was like trying to build up my confidence. Like, hey, you're doing great. Like shit happens. It's not that big of a deal. We can go home if you want. Like you don't have to keep riding. And he was just trying to build me up and be encouraging. And I was like, no, like I can do this. I just let me like think through it. And so in my head, I'm just telling myself like, okay, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. And then we start riding, we get on this technical trail and I'm going really slow and we're 3 minutes into it probably. And I'm like, oh, you know how to ride a motorcycle. Like just because you hit that pole or just because you crashed, you didn't forget all of your skills. You just had to take a second and regroup. Something happens and it affects your confidence or it makes your confidence like waver a little bit. But those situations, they don't detract from the skills that you already have. You still have those skills. You just mentally have to kind of prove to yourself and remind yourself of all of the skills that you already possess. And when these situations occur, sometimes our brain rewrites the situation and makes us think that we're bad at something when we're actually not. We made a mistake. You just have to show up anyway and prove, like kind of like reteach yourself, reteach your brain that you can do it. It's all a mental thing. Motorcycling is so much more mental than it is physical. You don't just lose all of those skills that you have because mentally you're having a bad day or because mentally something happened and it makes you think that you're not good at whatever you're doing. My friend Dalton, he is such a good example about how motorcycling is so much more mental than it is physical. He is one of the guys that I race with. There's lots of stories about him in a lot of my other podcast episodes where we're doing race recaps. And Dalton is the guy that he goes out on the track and he gives it everything he's got. And he doesn't care if he crashes. Like he gives it everything that he's got because he wants to win or he's going to crash doing it. He's told me so many times, like, Sid, what's the worst thing that can happen? You crash? He's like, that's not that bad. Or he's like, there's only two options. You either win or you crash trying to win. And that's just how he is. But there's been multiple instances where he crashes in a race and he comes in on the crash truck. He checks himself. He gets a drink of water. And then he goes out on his other bike for the very next race. And his confidence is just right back on track. And sometimes he'll go out there and win the next race. Like, it is so cool to me to be sitting at the starting grid and Dalton crashes the race before, and then you see him just pull up to the grid and then he goes and leads the race. It's so cool. It's awesome. But he doesn't let those crashes and those little setbacks affect his mental game. He kind of takes a deep breath, he resets, and he goes back out. He doesn't let crashing control his day. He doesn't let that control his identity. And he tries to learn from a lot of those situations. So every single time that you have one of those events that hurts your confidence, it's a learning opportunity. One of the things that I hear the CEO at my job talk about a lot is that you grow when you get comfortable being uncomfortable. I feel like that's a very cliche statement, and it kind of is, but it's a statement that I've heard a ton from him. I've heard it a ton in a lot of like personal development books that I've read and podcasts that I listen to and things like that. And it is so true. Like when you get comfortable kind of being in this space where you're not going to be perfect, you're not always going to be good at it, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall down, you're going to crash. When you get comfortable being in that space, that's where you really grow, whether it's mentally with something in life or it's as a rider. And so with that dirt bike situation, that's where I was able to kind of like push through and mentally grow a little bit that, hey, just because I did something stupid on a dirt bike or I had a crash on a dirt bike, I didn't forget how to ride. And by getting back on the bike and doing it anyway, even when I didn't have the confidence, that retrains my brain and rewires my brain that you still have skills. You're good at this and you can do this. And every single one of these situations, it teaches you something. There are a lot of people out there that will tell themselves, I'm not ready. Or they'll say, I will get back on my motorcycle when I feel more confident. I will do this when I feel more confident. I'll do that when I'm better at it. But the reality of it is that the confidence comes after you take action. You can't sit on the couch and think about this bad day that you had on your motorcycle and say, well, I'll do it again when I feel more confident. Because the confidence comes when you do the hard thing. That's where you learn, that's where you grow. The first time you go and do that hard thing again, it's not going to be perfect. When I got back onto my dirt bike after that, hitting that pole and feeling like an idiot, I was like, let's just ride slow. And like, I just wanted to ride slow, like ride on even ground, like take it a baby step at a time. And then once I got into it, I was like, I don't need a baby step this. I can go down that technical trail and do just fine. And so it's all about just rewiring your brain and remembering that the confidence comes from the action. And each little action that you do where you're kind of uncomfortable, each time you do it, you get more and more comfortable. And so then the next time you do it, you can do something that pushes you a little bit farther and pushes you a little bit farther. So think about the first time you got on a motorcycle. You weren't good at it, or most people aren't good at it. I wasn't good at it. I think about the first time that I got on a track. I was terrified. My first track day was in the rain and I was terrified and I was like, wow, what am I doing here? And the first time I signed up for a motorcycle race, I thought that I was going to have a panic attack. I was literally sitting in my pit wanting to cry, not feeling like I was okay. And all I could remember and all I could kept thinking to myself was, there's no crying at the racetrack. You better get out there and do it anyway. You're already here. You already paid for it. There's no crying. Just go do the thing. And it was literally the best thing that I've ever done. And every single time that I go back out there, I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. It doesn't mean that I'm always going to be perfect at it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to have hiccups. But you get to this mental point where you believe and you're confident in your abilities. And each time that you push a little bit farther, whether it's that you push that brake marker a little bit farther, you ride a little bit faster, you brake a little bit farther into the corner, you go up a bigger hill when you're dirt biking than what you normally would, you carry a higher gear, any of those things. Each time you do those little things, the action, it adds up and it adds up and it adds up and it adds up. Each successful repetition, it's like a confidence payment into your bank account. And the confidence is something that you earn. You don't just find it. You have to go and do the actions. Get back on the bike. When you're feeling uncomfortable, do it anyway and ride the motorcycle. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of the podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast or you have a friend that you think could benefit from the podcast, please share with them. Every time you share the podcast with your friends, it helps it grow. Feel free to follow along with me on social media. My Instagram is midwest.motogirl, just like the name of the podcast. Or on Facebook, my Facebook is Sydney Guard Racing. This weekend, I will be back out at Motorsport Park Hastings for the Great Plains Ducati Festival and the Track Addicts Track Day weekend with the GP races at the end of the day. I'm very excited about it. There's going to be Ducati demo rides, good food, motorcycles on track, motorcycle racing at the end of the day on Saturday, and lots of good people. So just all around, it should be a great time. If you are in the Midwest, namely Nebraska or anywhere within a few hours of Hastings, Nebraska, you should come out, come check it out, come to the track, meet some of the people, and come see what it's all about. So I hope to see everybody at the track, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. We will catch you guys next week. Bye.